let's get going. To receive and accept apologies for absence. To receive declarations of registered and non-registered disclosable pecuniary interests and non-registrable interests. None? Cool. Consider requests for dispensations. To receive, confirm and sign the minutes of the full council meeting held on the 4th of May 2023. I'll second that. All in favour? Against? Abstained? To receive and note the minutes of the committee meetings listed below, acting under delegated authority. Planning Committee, 10th and 24th of May 2023. All in favour? Against? Abstain. Oversight Committee, 25th of May 2023. Second that. All in favour? Against? Abstain. Staffing Committee, 25th of May 2023. I'll propose we accept that.
Second.
All in favour? Against? Abstain. Properties Committee, 24th of May 2023.
Yeah. Opposed?
Seconded.
All in favour? Against? Abstain.
Was that against or abstain?
I think it was an abstain.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we're going to abstain.
Preempted.
While we're on here, obviously we now have 3 new councillors. Welcome to the table, everybody, or welcome back to the table, as may be in some cases. The committees we just ran through, there are a few spaces on them. Primarily planning, I think 3, is it?
One on planning, 3 on oversight.
1 on planning and 3 on oversight. So if anyone would like to join those committees, let us know so that we can put an agenda item on for next time and we'll get it sorted. And we'll move on to correspondence received.
We have received some correspondence with regard to the Abbey Fields item, which is coming up later on the agenda.
That was the one that we emailed round before.
Indeed, yeah.
Excellent. Opportunity for Cornwall councillors present to discuss Cornwall council issues relevant to the SEC. I can see
I'm
that.
sure to go first. Thank you. Okay, so, I've got nothing personally to offer this evening, but Councillor Roy can bring up to speed with regards to the buses, etc. As he's been leading on that. But if there are any questions, I'm happy to take those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just remembered something else to go on my list. Right, thank you.
Sorry, Lisa.
I'll do it as quick as I can. All right, but this is just to give you a flavour of the activities and the people and subjects that I've been engaged with over the last month or so. First off is the bus services. I've spoken to you several times about this before, but the 128, 129 circular bus previously cut off view from Stratton, and a lot of people that have comfort in using the circular service, particularly more mature people who were using the service to access health care in Stratton Hospital, were very upset by that. We've successfully got Bude and Stratton reconnected, and we don't seem to have lost too much. I've had a few complaints about places not being serviced. People have written to me about Ferries Avenue and Stratton Road, but it turns out actually they are serviced, and it was just simply the bus timetable had changed slightly, and they were missing the buses that they'd used previously. So fingers crossed that service at the moment has been revised in a very positive way. You probably have all noticed there's been a lot of road closures in Bude. That's because there's big works on 2 things, one of which is a gas main, which is necessary infrastructure, the other which has been 2 different fibre companies or internet cabling companies. I've contacted Cornwall Council because I'm really upset that the road closures are effectively rubber stamped by an office at a desk in Truro. I've said this before, and I think there needs to be local consultation with people on the ground here, and I'm waiting to see where that goes. It was confirmed to me last week that the lock chamber has been successfully cleared of sand. The locks are now operational. I think we need a minimum of a 6-foot high tide to get vessels across the sill. 6 metre, I should say, sorry. And of course, there are more stringent requirements from the Environment Agency in terms of water flow levels by Hill Bridge that have to be met. So if we get another drought scenario as we did last year, it's very possible that the lock may come out of operation, but that is determined entirely by the EA, the Environment Agency. Some of the parking revisions met with local dismay, where some of the parking bays had white dotted lines put around them, and we had the implementation of the no overnight parking of camper vans in certain bays, particularly some of these Crescent and also on Breakwater Road. Some of those hasn't quite gone as perfectly as we'd hoped, and I'm working with the traffic management team of Cornwall Council and meeting with local residents tomorrow, specifically on some of these Crescent. I'm really pleased that we've got a really decent council officer, not that they all aren't really decent, we've got an extra decent council officer, a lady called Charlotte Evans, who's taken particular interest in leadership on a number of issues around the canal and harbour, and she's really beginning to pull things together. I spoke to her at length when I had a meeting with her earlier last month about some of the thoughts I'm sure that a lot of us have been having, but about having a management plan for the whole canal. I know this is something that David Parsons tried and started to implement, and I'm really hoping that we can get that more buttoned down as we go on into the next year or so. Dredging programme is still due to take place later on this year. The timing of it, as I said before, is somewhat determined by the invasive species of zebra mussels and also Himalayan balsam, which means that we can't do dredging until the water cools below a certain threshold, which I believe is 11 degrees. So we're looking at around about October for the start point of that. There will be quite a lot of disruption because they're going to have the dredgings brought out and put into a bundled area on the Crescent car park and also on the harbour side before they're taken away. They effectively have to dewater and then be left for some time before they're determined to be risk-free. Earlier again in the month, I did manage, along with other Cornwall councillors, to have the visit to Bude School and meet with the head teacher, Dominic Wilkes, and I'm really hoping that this is now going to be the beginning of a really decent relationship that we've been struggling to get going. We had a no-holds-barred thrash out of things that I've been concerned about, behavioural issues, attendance issues, drug taking amongst youth issues, and we also talked about the possibility of getting some youth council operational, which I was hoping to speak to two of the councillors here. Also, Tom has spoken about it many times before, and I've seen it was on his manifesto for election. And of course, new councillor Steve Hayes as well runs the school council, so I think we can hopefully get something going now. That'd be really good. I've reported to you before about the potential for the multiplier on council tax on second homes. Cornwall Council had asked the leader of the council to ask for an unlimited, I think, multiplier, or maybe up to 300%, perhaps actually the figure was. She had a letter back in the last couple of days saying that the government is only prepared to entertain a 100% multiplier if that comes into place, which will be sometime hopefully in the near future. And that will be a management tool for restricting, or attempting to restrict, the proliferation of second homes. The new community area partnership replaces the community area network. The first meeting is on the 12th of June. I presume, Mr. Mayor, that we will have a council representation or representative on that meeting. So Lorraine, yeah, well done, that's carrying forward. If you need a lift, give me a ring. Okay, thank you. It's going to be down in Crackington Haven. And I think from what I can gather so far, the community area partnership's initial focus is going to be on shared prosperity funding and the way that's distributed. And the final point is I'm doing a lot of work, which again, I haven't really spoken to Sean or Nikki about, but on shorelands, the Binnamy Farm Estate, most of you probably know that all 3 councillors cover a little chunk of each of that. When the application was first mooted, there was the old green farm trackway which served the farm to all of the fields through, and it's a beautiful old sunken lane. I happened to be up on the estate last week. I walked down and saw it was full of builders' junk. So I wrote to the company, Vistry or Bogus Homes, and said, can you give this a tidy up? And they said they were about to tarmac it, which I thought would be absolutely horrifying given the amount of effort that we've been to try and preserve some of the natural aspect of local areas. So we're trying really hard to avoid having an old farm lane, which is probably 300 or 400 years old. It's a beautiful wildlife refuge. People up on the estate say that there's lots of bats, which are no doubt coming from that area, which they see, well, they're beginning to see at this time of year. And it is a stunning place, and it would be a sin to tarmac it. I'm presuming I've got council support on that one.
I did reply to them.
Thank you. You did. So that's my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, there's 2. First of all, actually, I'd like to give a bit of feedback because the new lines going over the downs, the parking bays, obviously reported it within 10 minutes of the first line being printed because my husband happened to be driving past at the time going, what the hell was that? And like Oliver Jones just dealt with it so quickly and so swiftly, and you saw the difference straight away. As soon as those parking bays were put there, people started parking there, and then as soon as they were removed again, people stopped, even though technically the restrictions hadn't changed. So yeah, just some feedback from it basically because it was incredible. But the question I do actually have is, do you, of the Google funding, you talked about the shared prosperity funding. Has there any idea of the ones that have been allocated so far? Who's got them? When will that information be released? Like how much the pots are left and things like that? Obviously, you probably don't have from the back of your hand. But if you could email us around, that'd be really useful. Like next week, because basically, if we're going to be applying for one of the last pots, which is the 4th of August, we need to know ASAP to see what's a reasonable amount to bid for. If much of the funding's already gone and there's only 50k, 100k left, then that obviously changes what sort of things we'd be bidding for as a town council. So we could do with that information if that's okay. Obviously, ideally, we'd also see the bids they put in and how they've written them up as well, so we can get some free feedback. But I'm assuming it's council feedback.
I will ask the question, but I don't have the answer for you.
Yeah,
as you suspect.
Yeah.
Sorry, Peter, that information is available. So.
All right, okay, so we should be able to provide it. Okay. Councillor O'Sullivan?
Yeah, well, thank you for mentioning my manifesto. And without being too controversial on my first meeting back, one of the things that was on my manifesto was in relation to the crematorium proposal with the development that you obviously supported. Quite simply, one of the shortcomings for some of us was the fact that there was no evidence presented that there was finance there, or there was capital there to build it in the first place, or no business plan. Can you update us? Have you seen anything to suggest there is the funds are going to be raised, and is there anything to suggest it will be a viable commercial enterprise?
Short answer, no.
I thought that might be right.
Is that enough? I mean,
No, that's
I'm fairly sure. I'm always a bit nervous when I'm responding to you because I know what a stickler you are for getting things absolutely right. Right? I believe that the 2 points that you make were not necessarily material planning considerations, but I wouldn't mind betting you know that better than I do.
Well, probably not the best idea to get into too much of it, too detailed an argument. My feeling would be that they are relevant, very, very relevant to a community facility. So, but, I'm not, we could argue that back and forth on that. But you've given me the answer. I'll leave it at that for now, if that's okay.
Okay.
But thank you for the answer.
Yeah. Anything from Paul? Lorraine?
Sorry, I
Councillor
haven't,
Morgan.
I haven't actually thought this through, so excuse the way it comes out. It's a bit of feedback, really. The companies that are used for the roadworks, basically I was approached, someone that is legally blind, and there wasn't a footpath provided to go past the road closed. and he was sent to walk round the roundabout with his guide dog and to walk along the road. Because I'm now the new accessibility person, is there any way we can get Cornwall Council to be aware of stuff like this, of the companies they're using? I know it's the company director and I know that it was mentioned to them, but I think Cornwall Council could do with being aware of things like this happening.
My response would be to report it to me,
Okay.
because I'm not aware of that incidents happening, and I can potentially dig into it a little bit. But the companies that are contracted would have to adhere to very specific rules and be DDA compliant. And if they're not, we should be holding them to account.
Brilliant, thank you.
Mr. Jennings?
Those new signs I mentioned you about it, remember the work officer or something? How much they cost?
So which signs?
The new sign down by the hospital, on the bus shelter.
Right.
They've got the sign, I think they work off the sun or something.
Absolutely no idea.
Yeah, oh, sure, what waste of money?
So
They can't print a bit of paper and put it at the door in a bus shelter and tell people when the bus
do you mean the electronic
whatever
readout?
it is, yeah, it works off the sun
Yeah.
or something, doesn't it?
Quite possibly, quite possibly. I would have thought an electronic live readout would be something people would celebrate.
Well, if you could get out to look at it, yeah. But
You
when
know-
I looked at the one, it was wrong. It wasn't even the right time.
Well, if that continues, let me know.
Oh, well, I mean, are they going to do it all over?
If I can just step in now, I think they're owned by private companies, Darcy.
No, not the timing
No?
signs. No, they're
Not the timing
from
signs?
council implementation. If it's an
So it's
advertising
illegal,
sign,
is it?
yeah. If it's an advertising sign,
Yourself.
yes.
Yeah.
But a bus time sign would be Cornwall Council. But if it happens again, let me know.
Well, you know, I did mention before, nobody knows when the bus is coming.
Well,
Where I live.
we've just changed timetables. It normally takes a few weeks for those to embed in people's minds. All the correct information should be on the signboards. I have checked, not all of them, I checked some of them after you said, to make sure that they were revised, and the ones that I saw were. So. Right. Yeah.
Right, public participation. I'll just say for the benefit, I know what is probably going to come up given the month, so if we could do it with nice terminology, it would be appreciated. Would anybody like to say anything? I'll start at this end. No? Richard? Really? Chris, don't let us down.
Are you accepting comments about Applefield House? Is that what?
We've got that on the agenda. In fact, that's the next
that
item
what
on
you
the
were-
agenda. Yeah.
Is that what you were? No, I have nothing to say about that. I'm disappointed, but I don't have a comment. But I have a comment.
But if you've got a comment, now is the time.
Yes, I know that it's there. But you were saying that there are people here that are concerned about that particular item. I'm concerned about it. I
Right.
don't wish to speak about that. Something else which concerns me. Right.
Good.
Last week, at the Oversight Committee, there was a conversation about the Bonnet Workshop and the land bank.
Yeah.
We settled on the money that the Canal Harbour Society had given you via the Inland Waterways Association, on that the £1,500 would generally be spent on interpretation and better lighting inside, and access actually at the premises. I expressed concern about the fact that we were planning to put a tarmac path over the grassed area. That really concerns me because it's most inappropriate, environmentally unfriendly in my view, right? Because most people, including the people that come either being pushed in a simple wheelchair or electric one, travel up the left-hand side of the wharf, which is adjacent to the base. So I was thinking about that. I thought maybe if you use chickens, and then this morning I had another thing. I think if it's your property and you'll do whatever you want to do, I thought it might be more appropriate that if you use chipped bark, which is a natural element and could be topped up as and when needed. Now, as you know, I'm a trustee, and I've not talked to my fellow trustees about that. Well, I have talked to one, and he was quite concerned that you were going to have this unnatural path. So, obviously, I would just ask you to reconsider that. And of course, it's not in your parish. I don't know if it's a planning issue to put a path in. But I remember when the canal regeneration project was going on in the late 1990s, early 2000s, North Cornwall District Council put in a whole lot of planning consent that they need as a block, not as individual ones, but as a block, right? And one of them was, if you know the area, opposite the entrance to the wharf, there's a copse of trees. And what they wanted to do was to make that into a car park, just reduce the level of some of the trees and have a little parking area, not the tarmac on the bottom, the natural thing, so that it would be as natural as possible. And the parish council asked for a site meeting. All the parish councillors turned up, met with the officers, and I think half of the village of Barnchurch turned up. And because the application was a block application with several things about all sorts of stuff, which they needed to get consent for. North Cornwall District Council withdrew that because they were afraid that as it was part of a complete set of things that they really needed, if one fell, then all the others would fall. So what I'm saying to you is I think my fellow trustees feel the same as me, but I shall find out later this month because I shall talk to them about it. I would just suggest to you, please reconsider, and if you really want to have a path, use chipped bark.
Councillor Purchase will address that.
Hi. I think that the path thing was more of a suggestion than a plan. So there's no actual plan in place to put a path there at all. And the resolution that we passed at the Oversight Committee was that our council manager and Janine, who works at the council, would meet with you to talk through what was the appropriate spend for that £1,500. So I want to reassure you that nothing is going to go ahead, without you having a look at it and a say in it. So that's the resolution that we passed.
So they're to be persuaded then?
Absolutely. There really is nothing that's hard and fast about this. So
Okay.
so don't feel like something's being done to you that you don't.
Yeah.
Don't agree with it.
It was just maybe I didn't grasp. I mean, they were going to talk about things, but I thought it might have been more with what we've agreed to spend the money on that we're providing. Well, I look forward to that.
Nothing, thank you. Darky?
Yeah, that flag, when are you going to take it down?
I knew that was
Yeah, well, you can't believe how pissed off the people of Bude are with you lot in this flag.
Which flag are we, please use the right polite terminology, Darky, because you're pointing at the one on Shoulder Hill.
Yeah, well, there's one over there too, and one here. You've got about 4 of them Pierce flags flying, one St. Perrin's flag.
Right. Correct terminology.
That is the correct
The
terminology.
pride flag or the rainbow flag I will accept. Okay?
No. So when are you going to take it down?
Well, Pride Month is...
We already had it for 1 month, a couple of months back.
And we did this dance then as well. Yeah.
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 I mean,
Well,
you want to walk around and ask the people what they think about it all. Because the next time all you lot put your names up for get voted on, the people of Bude will know who not to vote for. They should be, they just have all this flag business. That's all this council's known for, is this bloody flag. Nothing else at all. It's the only thing everybody talks about, it's the flag.
I get a lot of interaction with flags, yes, I will.
So how much is this costing the Bude ratepayer then to have this flag flying?
I'm not entirely sure how long it takes the caretaker to walk from that.
Now, what about permission to put it up for a licence in that?
Off the top of my head, Darky, I don't know. We've got the end of the year financial report tonight. Do you know?
It's the standard fee for seeking planning consent for a flag.
Is?
230 something, I think.
So for the people of Bude to be insulted by that flag, they've even got to pay for it.
People of Bude elected the council, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I think they can unelect them too, can't they?
They certainly can cast their votes again, Mr. Jennings, yes. Peter, and then
Some of us should stand. In the old days we had to stand when we address the table, but I'll sit down as everyone else seems to be sitting down. But I sort of concur with Mr. Jennings' view. I mean, I don't mind one way or the other, but the council, in my view, should be independent of any group or organisation or whatever persuasion. I mean, if a group of Nazis asked to put a Nazi flag up, would it be accepted? I doubt it very much. Or I know people might say it's not the point. It is the point, because the council should be neutral and should not side one way or the other.
Something far less controversial. It occurred to me that Hosbury Show, which comes up in August, is actually the Bude-Stratton. It's showcased by the Bude-Stratton Agricultural Association. It is actually the Bude-Stratton show, technically. I just wonder whether this council might consider having a stand there or having a presence there of some sort to recognise it is part of the history and heritage of Stratton, and I just wondered if that was...
we certainly look into that, yes, explore that. I'm sure if I speak to the mayor of Hosley, who's still floating over the cricket result.
Can I just say I absolutely support Councillor
yeah.
O'Sullivan in that. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea as well.
When it used to be at Holmesbury, the owner of the Sherbrooke, Stratton Council was at the stand for it.
Okay,
Will Hosbury still have a stand there?
Yeah, but Stratton used to.
Yeah, all right. The old, sure. Yeah. And of course, in the old days, it used to be alternated between Stratton and Hosbury.
we'll look into that. Any other comments from the public?
Not the public, but
You can say something, Sean, if you'd like, yes?
just a response to the new councillor and also Mr. Jennings. If there is any point where you feel that you would like to sit down and have a conversation and maybe kind of, just an open conversation about understandings or misunderstandings about the reasons for flying the Progress Pride flag, I would welcome the opportunity to talk to you, because central to all of this, you've kind of shown why the Pride flag is really important to be flying, and it's about education, and it's about making people in our community that live here and our councillors here and are growing up here feel safe and supported and seen and held and loved by our community, who, we would like to think everyone was compassionate for everyone's individuality. So, excuse me. So yeah, if you ever want to have a chat.
So which is why you do everything that they want and ignore everything about everybody else.
So when you say they, you mean like us, because we are all in.
No, you lot are puppets of the pride people. Or as you call them. I don't, I call them the wheels.
Mr. Jennings,
Okay.
please.
But just to re-up, it would be great to have a conversation. If you ever want to have a conversation about any, like making any kind of understandings or anything like that, I would love to have a chat about any of this with you. Just, I'm here as a resource and as a human being if you want to talk.
Okay, Chris?
Yes,
Go, and then...
it's nothing about what is topic now. Just remember, all about to Peter, there is a lockout tomorrow evening at 5:30. There's 2 blocks
keep
If
back
you
the
want, if
address.
you want to see, you need to be there before 5:30, because
What's your hope to be on the lock and crew?
yes, and
Right.
you'll see me as well.
We're going to move on at that point. I think everybody's had ample opportunity to speak. Abbeyfield House, there we are, to discuss the consultation on the closure of Abbeyfield House, Burnley. Anyone like to kick us off?
Okay.
I'll go
Kick
with
off, yeah.
I'll draft you, Katie.
Well, no, it was more, so obviously I read the paper, and I've actually probably did an interview recently, furthermore like, but I still feel like there's still a little bit more that we could be doing as a town council, where we could be, I've been trying to look at Age UK, they're all the elderly side and not actually, you have to go behind the scenes to talk to them and things like that. It's basically, is there anyone else that could adopt the care home? And I know it's obviously not very popular business or whatever right now and all sorts, but is there more that we could be doing to outreach into national care home companies to say there's this opportunity that's come up or something, basically to try and keep it open. I don't know, it's not my industry, so.
So it's a response?
Yeah, sorry, Kevin, I'm
The
yeah.
only thing, sorry.
No, it's,
Well,
yeah.
you probably know as much as I do.
Oh,
Maybe more.
I've been in contact because Mr. Talbot contacted me regarding this, so I did contact them directly. And what they've said, as we know, is they apparently haven't made this decision yet.
Right.
What they've told me is there's apparently 3 phases they're going to be putting this through, and it's going to go to public consultation. On one hand, I agree with trying to have a backup plan, and I think there is potentially some companies that I could speak to. I accidentally spoke to someone earlier that their company's been taken over by a bigger company, and I just wonder if that might be a backup plan. I have contacted Abbeyfield on behalf of the council. I did contact Keith to make sure I was doing it the correct route. So just to let everyone know that I did do it on sort of behalf of us, and with supporting, not closing it. But then we'll probably go over to Jesus.
Well, what I was going to say is more a point of information, really. Aberfield is not a care home or a nursing home. It's a kind of a halfway house, a supported accommodation for people, off the top of my head, I think it's 50 plus, but it might be 55 plus, who have difficulties and wouldn't be able to live comfortably without a small level of support. But it certainly isn't a kind of residential care home as some people sort of imagine. To the best of my knowledge, it is the only facility of its kind locally, and it, in my opinion, sort of professionally, because we used to have care clients in there, it is a very useful facility because those people do need an additional layer of support without being in a care home, and that just isn't available anywhere else. And I think we should at least show our support for keeping that open. If it's a case of Aberfield have got to close somewhere, let it be somewhere else, not you for a change.
Just to say, Kevin's explained Abbeyfield perfectly. I've known about them for years. I've been in touch with Graham Anderton to do with the Armed Forces community to try and find out if there's any members of the Armed Forces community within the home. Apparently, according to they have not come back positive on that, because what I was hoping to do was perhaps pull in the Armed Forces community to help on that. But yes, I do feel as a council we ought to be trying our best to try and support them. I'm not saying buy it. Let them know the board's called.
Peter, and then...
Right, okay, I'm going to stand up because I want to make sure that everyone can hear me. So my mother-in-law spent the last years of her life in Abbeyfield in Bude, and it was a godsend for her, and it gave her confidence of being able to live an independent life with the tiniest bit of support, like helping with shopping and little trips out and meals provided and so on. But she still had her own front door and her own personal private space, which she actually enjoyed. living out her last years. The problem that we've got here is that Abbeyfield is a private care provider, or a private company providing this service, and obviously it is highly valued, and it's highly valued by people that use it and all their relatives, and as a community I think we should value it. But what Abbeyfield is saying is effectively that the minimum standards laid out by the government, which they have to meet in a particular time window, and I think they said 2030, I might be wrong, but there was a time window given, that they didn't feel that the structure of the house was ever going to be able to make it. And I don't know whether they caveated that without significant investment, or just couldn't do it just due to the layout of what it was. So this is uncomfortable to say, but I think because it's a private business that can't meet regulations, they have to go through this process of consultation. I think they almost certainly will close it down. I can't see any avoidance of that. And I think attempting to step in to find somebody to run it, it just is a non-starter. I think, in all honesty, what we do have to do is to make sure that we perform due diligence on holding Cornwall Council to account and making sure that decent homes are provided for these people. And we need to be getting on with that quickly, because you know how quickly time passes. There is an extra care facility in the process of being built on the Shorelands estate for 55 pluses, and in the back of my mind I'm wondering whether or not, with a little bit of adjustment in the way that it's operated, might be suitable for some of these people that are looking at losing their homes and what they consider to be their families. But Councillor Tilby did show me some correspondence that he had with Cornwall Council and Oliver Mutton, who's the portfolio holder for housing in Cornwall. Cornwall Council are aware of it, and I hope that we can have a productive relationship and make sure that we do hold them to account, and these people are not left in too much doubt for very long about where their future lies.
Some correspondence from you, Chair. Yeah, we have had just a very short correspondence from Councillor Chopak on this issue. And just for information, Abbeyfield consultation. I'm in close contact with Alison Bullman, Director of Adult Social Care at Cornwall Council, who are fully aware of the situation, as Peter said, and who are working with Abbeyfield to try and provide a solution. So that is my reporting of Councillor James.
Yeah, that can refer to what Peter's just said, that adult social care are in communication with Abbeyfield to try and resolve or help as much as they can.
So I think then we should have a bit of a multi-pronged resolution here, where it is, you know, we obviously say, please keep it open. We're supportive of keeping it open as part of their consultation. That's directly to the company. I think there's part, obviously, to Cornwall Council to say, hey, we need this facility local to our town. It's not about just moving them on to somewhere else. It is keeping it local to the town as well. So I think there's that part of the resolution. And then I think there's a part of it which still enables Lorraine to continue to reach out to possible other solutions, partnerships or whatever, etc. And just making sure she's able to do that. And so I think that covers keep it open locally, please. Lobby someone at a Cornwall Council level, and then allowing Lorraine to continue discussing partnerships.
So letter of support to Abbeyfield House or for Abbeyfield House.
Yes.
Fire Peter up in the direction of Cornwall Council.
To make sure that a facility like that stays around here.
Can we add to that bit?
Yeah.
Is there any chance that we could work with Cornwall Council on this?
Of course.
Rather than them doing something, us doing something. I just think if we're working together, we could probably make it a bit more powerful, possibly.
So through the chair, if that's okay,
Yeah.
I'm very happy to, and I'm sure Councillor Tilby and Councillor Chopak will be as well. I think maybe just getting together for a discussion as to how we could work together would be a really good idea. Can I ask you to send an email to the three of us?
Yeah.
And then we'll work out a time to get together. I just want to respond in part to something that Councillor Good said. I'm not entirely sure saying we want to keep Abbeyfield House open.
That's not what I said. It was for the Cornwall Council to keep a facility like that around in the area for the town. It wasn't just about dealing the wording that you said it suggested, oh, we're just looking after them, as in we're sending them down to Bodmin or whatever. That's still looking after them. They've still got a house that's not in view. So it's ensuring that we keep a facility like that around in view. So just that's the bit we want to lobby for.
Sorry, I must be mistaken, because I'm sure I heard you say that you wanted to keep Abbeyfield House open.
That was for the town council to talk to Abbeyfield House to the first part. So it's like, please Abbeyfield House, as part of your consultation, we would like you to say open please.
I'm just confused about that, because if it's substandard housing, we could force a position where we're asking vulnerable people to be held, not held, but provided in housing that doesn't meet standards. I'm just cautious, that's all.
Yeah, sorry, Kevin?
The bottom line is we don't know. Peter's got information that I didn't have about the possibility of this being a substandard building that could never be made up to standard. But we don't know that for an absolute fact.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the consensus around the table is that the facility that Abbeyfield provide is a very useful one and an important one to Bude. And I think that needs to be emphasised to Abbeyfield. Because if it is a case that a certain number of homes have to be closed, and Bude does not have to be one of them, but could be one of them if we don't all get up on our hind feet and stamp and shout about it, then we ought to be stamping and shouting. Not for them to keep open a substandard house, but for them to be aware of the importance of the facility to the community. So I think that's the bottom line minimum that we should be doing. Then if it is, as Pete suggests, something that is going to be completely outside everybody's control, and basically the consultation is a waste of time because they are going to close it, you have to close it, those are the regs that are coming like a juggernaut to smash it up, then we need to be working with Cornwall Council and others to try and provide alternatives for the people who live there.
Yeah, I mean, during my previous tenure as a town councillor, I attended Abbeyfield House several occasions, usually just before Christmas. And it's a fantastic facility, and it should be, you know, the town council should do what it can to try and keep it open, not in a financial sense, but by pushing, I don't know, perhaps even central government to relax some rules about EPC, Energy Performance Certificate. This is all this is about, because it's not going to comply with the Energy Performance Certificate, because it's got a leaky door, it's going to let out, you know, a few kilowatts of electricity, or whatever it might be. And it's such a shame that we're being governed now by such, well, pathetic really, you know, no one wants to waste energy, but, you know, the cost of providing a facility like this somewhere else that does comply with the EPC certificate, whatever number it is, it's a nonsense. It really is, especially if you're on a green tariff anyway. So what does it matter if all their electricity is being wasted and it's generated by wind turbine? You know, not fossil fuels. But it's a shame because it's not, you know, the discussion, sorry, is about the not complying with regulations. It makes it sound as if it's not safe. It's perfectly safe. It complies with fire rate. It complies with every regulation. It's just about being efficient.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
From some of the stuff I've read, I don't know who's reading what because we're all involved in various different conversations. That's not the first time I've heard it put forward that the issue is it would cost them too much money to bring it up to the required green standard. And at the back of my mind there was that little voice saying, well, you know, baby, bath water, that kind of thing. We'll go to Vicky.
Yeah, one, I just think some sort of letter from the council supporting Abbeyfield House. Karen, who seems to be in charge of the Keep Abbeyfield Open committee, seems to be doing a great job with contacting the MP, etc., etc. Over to the government regulation side, to do with the EPC being brought in by 2030, I think the government will be forced to backtrack on that because the amount of housing in this country that cannot be brought up to that standard is, I've forgotten what the exact percentage is, but it is huge. End of.
Yeah, just a quick thought really. I'd like to advocate for a stay of execution, if nothing else, because we're talking about it might not be possible by 2030 to have the building up to full standards, whatever. But that's 7 years away. And I can't understand why, well, I can understand why, clearly I'm sure it's financial, but this is people's homes, and there are people in that, as I understand it, from people who are friends and relatives, they are people in there that are sort of kind of like family. So if they get, if they're found in places around the county and split up, it will be pretty devastating. And 7 years is quite a long time. So I don't see where there's the rush, and also the consultation doesn't seem to be much of a consultation. It's kind of, they're not consulting in terms of like, it doesn't seem to me that there are options. Which option should we go for? It's we're shutting, we're shutting it down. It is probably a financial, understand finances, and it's a business, but could we just advocate for holding fire?
So we all seem to be supportive of the idea, effectively, of a strongly worded letter supporting,
Not rushing into
it, trying to get
and scaring the life out of some old people.
I'm worried about how it's going to be worded.
Well, I'm very wary about this. Yeah, proposal is going to be worded.
I mean, I do have, I've got a letter here that was sent to me, but I could read out part of it if that's acceptable. It's only about 6 lines.
Okay, go with that then.
So, as a responsible housing provider, Abbeyfield conducts surveys which collects information about the condition of all our properties against a home's current and future purpose. We do so understand its repair needs and to ascertain if it's fit for purpose. Our analysis shows that Abbeyfield House requires significant investment to bring it up to a modern standard. The costs to carry out this work, even if spread over an extended period, are too great for us to meet, particularly after the recent hardship Abbeyfield has experienced. It did also mention about the UPC rating, but that's just a small. But so I don't want to. Although the letter of support is important, which I've done, so it would be nice to do it again, probably from the office. I just don't want to look idiots as such.
How do you mean look like idiots?
Well,
if we write a letter of support, we're going to look like we're...
No, not the support with keeping... I'm wary about we want to keep it open, so I agree with the comments about that it looks like they can't afford to do it.
From what I've read, that is their parking line.
So
Well, how
It's
truthful that is, I don't know, but
7 years, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
if they just leave it as it is, I mean, I'm sure people would rather live where they are.
Yes, true.
Then
They've said that even if spread over an extended period, they can't do it.
but just say we're going to shut in 2030 then. It's like, could they not just keep it
Yeah.
as it is for the next 7 years, and people know that they've got 7 years to
That's a good point. But it's so
Yeah.
come to an arrangements, or it might not be an issue.
Ian coming.
Potentially, the council could write to say that it expresses concern over the potential implications of the review.
Room.
Sort of words you could use. And also,
Yeah, I was going to say something along those lines and it would be much better, in my opinion.
I propose venturing.
Do you also want to add the bit that Councillor Ray Colvin who delegated to work with Cornwall Council to provide alternative accommodation for residents if necessary?
Yes, I am trying to form a proposal using that.
BSDC write a letter expressing concern at the closure of Abbeyfield facility. Councillor Lorraine Colvin delegated to work with Cornwall Council to provide alternative accommodation for residents if necessary.
And also to petition lobby, ask that Cornwall Council can help provide a similar facility in the area if it was to close, basically. Keeping the residents in the area, etc.
Yeah? Anyone wanting to second that?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favour? It's unanimous. I think, yes.
Chair, could I just throw a comment in relation to that?
Go on then.
Thank you. It occurs to me that Okay, Abbeyfield was saying that it's going to cost a fortune to bring this building, very modern building, up to modern standards. You guys have bought King's Lord Stores in Stratton. I bet you end up spending shitloads more money there to bring that up to modern standards than Abbeyfield will do. I don't know how you can link the two.
Yeah.
But I would quite like to see Abbeyfield stay.
Yeah.
And there must be a sort of correlation with cost there somewhere. If you use that to your advantage.
Obviously, we went to closed session when we discussed buying your support, but
Yeah.
we did have a very careful look at not only the purchase price, but what it would require going forward. It's probably as far as I can go with that.
We haven't actually moved off this yet, have we? We're
No, we're trying to.
So I'm going to revive it a little bit because my cogs have been turning listening to Mr. Barrett there. Another thing, I imagine that most councillors sat around this table appear to be very supportive of what Abbeyfield are doing in Bude. And the fact that apparently they haven't got enough money in their pot to make the fabric of the building meet requirements, it seems a shame that we could lose such a facility for what may be not that great amount of money. And I'm just really interested, I almost don't want to say this out loud, but I think we're going to have to. That if we had some money in our reserves that could help them make the building suitable, would that be an awful use of that money, entering into some sort of partnership with them to secure the building? And I think what my mind is saying is that actually I'd quite like for us to be allowed to have a conversation with Abbeyfield about exactly what those costs are. Not necessarily with the view to doing anything about it, but just in a curious, fact-finding way.
My concern now is we're not talking about a local one-off company, we're talking about a large national company, and we would have no real... If you were talking about a local care home that was literally one care home run by local people, for local people, the risk management would be...
Chairman, you're correct, this is county-wide.
Yeah, well, it's more than county-wide. Yeah, I went on company's house and had a look at their finances, because when they said they couldn't afford things, I thought, well, I'll find out how much money you've got. And they've got access to more funds than we have, Peter. Let me put it that way. I understand what you're saying, but I would have concerns about diving into bed with a large national company. I'm not saying I would be against the idea of exploring it, but...
I'm not saying nothing more than just trying to find out what the facts are.
Yeah.
This is a good time to raise the fact that we updated our grant policy to allow people to apply for grants of all sorts of different sizes, and also the next round due up, and also it also can include limited companies as well, as long as it's the benefit of the youth, and it can be also national charities and things as well, such as Jay's Aid, which is national, but as long as it's for the benefit of the youth, and then we can discuss that application as part of the grants policy, as part of everything together, and who else has applied all at the same time. So it's probably just worth raising it with them about our grants policy, and if that's the thing that they're then.
Right, I'll take this one, and then we do have a proposal that's been seconded, so we're going to vote.
Just a quick thought.
Oh, sorry, have we? Drag this right back round.
Just a quick comment, really. That, there is, of course, the Bude Climate Partnership Project, which has just employed an energy advisor.
Yeah.
So perhaps we could send them along, they can have a look and see if it really is.
That is actually a very good suggestion. Peter, one more.
Right, okay.
And then we're going.
Well, because we're still on the item, and there's no reason that we can't have multiple proposals on the same issue, I'm going to propose that Lorraine Corrigan-Turner, Councillor Corrigan-Turner, be authorised to speak with Abbeyfield about the detail of work needed to bring the fabric of the building up to standard.
Without suggesting that we're going to fund it.
No, that's not in the proposal, no.
I'll make an amendment to include that in the proposal. I think it should be quite clear that the town council is not going to be funding every private businesses' expenditure.
Are
It's
you
not a
willing
lot
to
of
press
this,
the amendment?
you know, I'm seconded it, so I don't know.
Well,
I'd rather say.
If you proposed it, I'll
Peter's
second
proposal.
it. I'm not sure if you proposed that.
I haven't proposed it, no, this is Peter.
So my proposal is merely a fact-finding mission, just to authorise us to find out what the facts are.
I'm happy to say.
Councillor Purchase has seconded it. Councillor
So
Ward made it.
purely fact finding, no offer or.
Councillor Moores has made an amendment which is unseconded.
Well,
I will second that amendment, but we are not offering to put money in.
just to make it clear.
Yes, it's fact finding only at this stage. Alright.
Well, I just want to say that you might be hobbling ourselves, because if we say now we're definitely never going to put any money in, it would mean that we could never change our, well, it would be bad.
Can I steer you all to the options in Keith's report, which extend to expressing concern and asking Cornwall Council to ensure that residents are properly treated and provided for. It's not for me to curtail your further discussion, but those are the recommendations from the more senior and experienced officer than I.
Mr. Chairman, my concern
Carry
is
on.
if the council was to do Councillor Roy's proposal without any rider to it, that they think, oh, that's all right, soft touch, we'll ask them for £80,000 to bring it up to EPC3 and we'll keep it open. And then a couple of years down the line, we'll be in the same position again. They've acquired a nice EPC compliant premises, decide to sell it and move on anyway. So it's just a cautious step. I personally, if it was my money, I wouldn't be doing that.
As
I
I
think
said,
we
if
should
it was,
treat-
if it was a local company, I would.
Yeah, I could be a bit different.
Yeah.
But I think you need to think what you would do if it was your money, not public's money, because you are guardians of the public's money, and to waste it on such things might be not prudent.
I'll go to Jackie and then Kevin.
I just think, we've just got a proposal to look into something. I mean, we're not saying that we're going to pay for it, so I don't see why we have to say. We're not, are we?
No, but
We're not saying
you're
we're
not. Are you?
No, but still, we're not saying we are, are they?
Kevin, Vicky.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Roy that if we go in to any kind of discussions on the basis of, well, what's it going to cost then, but we're not going to put our hand in our pocket for 50 quid, we are completely hobbling ourselves and we're almost making those discussions relevant. Now, any discussion would be just preliminary, and any opening of the checkbook would require another vote around this table. So I don't really see the necessity for the amendment. Either we think it's a good idea to fact find and potentially find out how we could contribute financially or otherwise to keeping everything open, or we don't want to do that. And I think the amendment sort of muddies the water.
One, I sort of agree with fact finding, but two, I sort of feel this is a bit of a slippery slope. And the next thing, we will be in a situation, a bit like Lord's Court, we've got to keep this open, no matter what cost. And I have spoken to Keith about this, and shall I just say I raised a big black cloud?
Mm.
Because he said this is not council business.
Yeah.
We are not the provider of care homes.
No, we're not, and we all know that this year's work schedule is maxed out. In fact, it's beyond the what we would have set ourselves at the start. When we took on Abbeyfield House, we went beyond what.
Yeah, and we also know that the office staff, etc., and what staff we have are overworked or appear to be overworked. And listening to the reports at the oversight, more staff are needed for the literary festival. That's more expenditure. Letter of support, explore, but I wouldn't say commit to it at all.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Oh no, it's fine. Yeah, cool. We're not supposed to go ahead.
No, just process now. So should we vote then on the amendment first? Then,
Okay, all in favour of the amendment?
I'll have to put my hand up because I'm voting.
Yeah. Right, against? And abstain?
Go back into the proposal.
Go back to the original proposal.
So now it's about the original proposal, to just talk to them fact find.
To authorise Lorraine Corrigan to speak with Dr. Field on a fact finding mission to ask him about the amount of work needed to bring the building up to standard.
All in favour? Against? Abstain?
I would, again, just bring your attention to Keith's report. Under the point financial implications, he stated none. That's all I wanted to say. Yeah, thank you.
We've all read it. Okay.
It's in red.
Town team consultation. One of the town team reps, right there.
Please do.
Okay.
I'll answer any questions I can.
Okay. In February, we resolved that Bude-Stratton Town Council approves the Office of Employment Council for Town Team Revitalisation Funds, agrees to the terms and conditions and authorises the use of the fund as detailed in the letter. The STC would ask for clear questions as to how the consultation will be designed, the questions and who will be consulted. The STC asked for formal reporting from the town to the STC. I think due to circumstances which you can probably tell us more clearly than I can, the consultation has started without us having the opportunity to see the survey in advance, ask questions about how it's designed and who is going to be consulted. However, we are where we are. The consultation is out. So I would like to urge councillors really to carry out the town team consultation, to actually do the survey themselves, and to feed back to the team any thoughts, queries or issues you have with the survey. I would like us to have the opportunity to prize the survey being released, but that said, one of the other things I want to say is the Environment and Climate Change Forum has asked for a series of questions to be added to the survey about trees and green spaces. Other councillors or groups, once they've done the survey, might feel that there are other issues they'd like to see directly addressed. Maybe things like health provision, youth provision, creative industries, art and culture, public transport. I know that there's reasoning around that the survey is really about the economic well-being of the town centre, but I'm personally going to accept the reasoning that those wider issues are not associated with the economic vitality of the town centre. I think the links between the provision of public infrastructure and economic vitality are well researched. I think if we as a town council don't take this chance to try and influence the consultation, then in my view we've missed an opportunity, and we won't be thanked by the town residents if we subsequently try to run any other surveys which have potentially overlapping themes. I think questions will be asked about why we didn't do this one.
Did you have your hand up on that?
I did, yes.
Do you want to speak?
Well, I'm confused, Councillor Purchase, because I attended a series of workshops with the consultants pre-planning the consultation process, which is very open. They asked us exactly what we wanted. Have I read those meetings I went to incorrectly? Because the Deputy Clerk was at the same meeting.
I think the inference of the resolution was that the suggestions for the consultation would come back to council for discussion, rather than the attendance of councillors at those planning meetings. And that's my oversight. They should indeed have come back. So,
Okay.
put my hand up.
No, in that case I have misunderstood it.
I think the other thing as well is there is a big difference being part of the workshop compared to an end result that gets delivered. So there was just fundamental things like you're using radio buttons for a multiple choice question, which means you can only choose one thing, or the opposite way around, where it's like it should be a radio button because she's supposed to only choose one thing. Just little things like that, as well as some of the wording, which I only had the opportunity to see once the website had been live and once had been told, hey, now spread it round, and I was like, as you saw in those workshops, I was like, please could you send us the website beforehand so I can have a look, and I didn't get any of that, and immediately I responded saying, there's all these issues, you know, could we go through some of these, and they weren't resolved straight away because the person was on holiday and all sorts of jazz, so yeah, like that end, because they obviously have iterated, that's the thing, the consultants here have worked really well, taking a lot of feedback from the workshops and manoeuvring that into like an end product that actually works really well. Like the map, you see lots of people putting points on the map now, and even outside the area that we're talking about, which tells me actually that might be something useful that we could be integrating in some way long term. The Mentimeter is very popular, it seems. There's loads of stuff that's popping up on it. I don't know if that's actually been more used than the actual surveys and things. So they are being changed. That's the thing. They have already changed a bunch of the questions, the wording and things, and adding some other options and fixing some other things up. It's just that key bit between the end of workshop to release. There were missing point there, which is here is your final product. What do you think? And at that point was also the point where we would have taken it here and go, this is the final product. What do you guys think? And that's the bit that we're missing. But fundamentally, I think this is still really positive. And as Philippa says, please do come forward with any other things that you feel like should be added. There's other groups in the town that are also doing surveys at the same time and things as well, so they could be covered by those and things like that.
For the clarity of offices, the process of taking back the suggestions of consultation to monthly meetings becomes necessarily unwieldy against a tight deadline of 6 months to deliver this. So you said there quite rightly that if you had sight of how the website was going to look, you could have given your much welcomed advice on that. Are you suggesting that the consultation that the resolution encapsulated is sufficient to just email you what the suggestions are, or are you suggesting that it has to come back to council?
I guess we weren't clear in the resolution if it had to come back to council, as in council, or emailing around everyone saying, what do you think? Personally, I'm much, especially for things like this forum is not the best forum to discuss minor changes and this and that and this and that, and actually, like sending out on Teams or an email would have been a better solution, basically. And I feel like, I know that Philippa, you probably would have preferred it in a, you probably had a different, so you would have preferred it in a more formal setting to do the final stamping, basically.
Yeah.
So,
but I do agree with Councillor Good that, you know, it would have been helpful to have had it sent round prior to a meeting. You could have had a look at it, and then we could have rubber stamped it or whatever at the forum.
I've got a bit of a reputation of pointing out elephants in the room, and the big elephant here was this got away from us. It got away from us because it got out on social media. There was some misunderstandings. The email of the clerk, or the deputy clerk, was put out there as the point in which to send your feedback into. The whole thing got a little bit messy, and my understanding is that the consultation was made live as a direct result of trying to sort out a little bit of that mess, and it probably was pushed out slightly earlier with slightly less involvement of people around this table than it should have been. But it's happened, it's out there. Issues with the consultation can be fixed. It's an ongoing live document. There are plenty of opportunities to feed into this process. It doesn't have to be through the web-based consultation. There's going to be meetings, there's going to be all kinds of things. So I don't think the good people of Bude need worry that this is a slightly suboptimal launch of a small part of a very large consultation. I think basically the word coming out from this table today should be anybody who's got an interest in the town centre of Bude, anybody who's got an interest in the economic development and the long-term prosperity of Bude, get involved. Get involved, be it online, be it going to one of the face-to-face meetings at some point in the future. Get involved, because there is no preconceived idea, there is no hidden agenda, there is no plan in the back pocket. It genuinely is unlike Abbeyfield, a proper consultation.
I'm just wondering if there is something that we could still learn as part of our comms team, I don't know, in any way, like how to manage this sort of thing in the future, like, I don't know, it's like, Facebook is its own beast anyway, and if there was any sort of, basically, that if we allow our comms person to talk to the consultants about it and see if there's, what we could we do in the future better, basically. In some
I
way.
don't want this to sound like an excuse, but the start of the consultation or the town team exercise began between the two stools of one comms officer leaving and another starting.
Okay, yes.
The comms officer was off sick for 2 weeks while this launched, so.
Okay, that's fair, but that also suggests that we should have some sort of backup ourselves then, because it's that bus number, right? If one person gets run over by a bus and everything goes to shit, that's a big issue. So we need to just have that bit of a backup. Like, I don't know, that's an organisation thing of, hey, this person is sick because that happens, therefore who picks up that reins, even if it's not their day job necessarily, and if it's a job role thing or whatever, I don't know. I also definitely don't want to put any more pressure on any town clock or anything like that. It should go lower, not higher, right? The other thing I was going to mention is there is a big town team meeting for anyone running a business, wanting to run a business, or has run a business at 4:30, I believe, on Tuesday at Chaplin's.
Just check my job. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it's 4:30 till 6:30 with a presentation at 5:30 from the consultant team. Councillors, I'm sure, will be welcome.
It's Chaplin's.
Okay, right.
The
Did you have something to say?
Yeah.
Politely, Mr. Jones.
Who's running this town?
Who's running this down?
Yeah. It seems to me you lot sit here and got a clue what this town team are doing. They seem to be doing out things that you know nothing about.
It wasn't, Darky, it wasn't the town team that launched this. Right?
I'll take it.
You want to take it?
Yeah.
You are on the town team.
Yeah, no, I'm-
Yeah.
So I'm on the town team, I'm proud to be on the town team. The town team has been effectively instructed by the council to do consultative work amongst the people, commercial, residential, right across the board, young people, any age you like, as to what the future might bring for the town centre. When you employ consultants, they have to be given a certain amount of headway, free space, to lay out things like consultations, because the consultation process and the development of that was done hand in glove with councillors. I think there was there was certainly a group of councillors that were asked to be involved with the generation of that consultation process, wasn't there? And we all did get very tightly involved with it. The reality is, if you ask somebody to do a job for you, you don't then go and do the job yourself. You have to allow them to deliver on their promises.
I quite agree.
And I think that's the position where we're at. There's an awful lot of work that needs to be done with this consultation process at quite fast pace, which is one of the reasons why I believe Councillor Purchase is slightly irritated that she hasn't had the opportunity to shape it in the way that perhaps she wanted to.
Well, she is the deputy mayor, right?
Yes, yeah.
And she don't know what's going on, and she can't tell what's going on. How the hell's it consultation?
I don't want to speak on behalf of Councillor Purchase, but I believe that
She
she's
was
part,
saying that
she's
she
part of
didn't
the
get a
group.
chance to look at it or nothing.
But I believe that she was part of the group that was involved in shaping that process. I can't remember you in the meetings, but I often can't remember other people in the meetings. But I don't think what you're suggesting is a fair resemblance of actually what has happened. Right? And we have delegated authority to the town team to do this work on our behalf. And it's a fact, again, it's a fact-finding mission, along with asking for some suggestions that this council may or may not choose to adopt and promote.
Right. Right, do you want to respond to that? Yeah, no.
I would say that I do think what's going on because I'm the one who actually raised this problem with the town park. I suppose what my issue is, it's not necessarily irritation. It's kind of process in a way, you know. So it's about giving people the opportunity, and the consultation may have come to all of us. I mean, they have all looked at it, and that is brilliant. I've got nothing to say on that, and the mayor's out here and understands it. And we may do that, you know, now. sort of thing. But I suppose for me it was the kind of the due process and the steps that I felt we kind of missed out, rather than, you know, a burning desire to shape every word of it. And I do agree with Councillor LeBroy, when you ask an expert to do something, you don't do it yourself. However, you know, we could have input some of our own local knowledge and so on.
It's still not too late to do that, and the suggestions from the Environment Forum and others can still be added to it and form part of the consultation, so we haven't missed the boat.
Thank you. My understanding of this is, at the end of the day, the people of you will decide whether they like it or not. And if they say they don't like it, then it won't happen.
Pretty much. Just like the Downs consultation, there was a massive panic that we were going to build a skate park and spaceport and concrete the entire thing. We sent out a consultation, we looked at what came back, and you would have to agree that we have done exactly what we were asked to do by the public. This is no different. We're gathering ideas. There are various different ways of gathering ideas. Things could have been handled slightly differently, but ultimately everybody is getting a chance to tell us why they like coming into town, how coming into town could be improved for them, why they don't like coming into town, what they would like to see, what they wouldn't like to see. Everybody gets to say that, and then we get to go through it. And any decision will be made here by us, Starkey. And then you can come and shout at us, as you do most times, if you don't agree with the decisions we've made. That is the process we are in. And as I say, you know, if you go back to the Downs consultation, which was 2 years ago now, you know, we effectively had very similar interactions around this table. And I think history will show that we did take on board what we were told. We haven't done what people didn't want. You know, not everybody is going to agree, but we have followed primarily what the majority wanted. And yes, I'm, you know, your dog poo signs, Starkey, I know you're going to mention them, so I'll get in there right now.
No, how do I find out about it? It's what my question was.
How do you find out about what, sorry?
This consultation.
You've got to go on, you want it online, you can come into the office, there are hard paper copies in the office, I will get one printed off